Okay, we're going to move on to question 16. There are actually a number of points on question 16. I was just hoping to take them all together rather than individually. So there's a number of policy areas which are currently considered to be working fairly well. So should these policies be taken forward? And as I say, it's a number of different policy areas. So if anyone wants to raise anything in relation to these, please do so. And obviously we can provide clarification of what our approach currently is on these areas. So is there anything people want to raise on points A to G?
Can everybody see points A to G?
What is road improvement?
Road improvements is obviously an existing policy, TRANS18. I don't know if one of the officers can very briefly set out what that policy states.
Yeah, the current policy is a mixture. Effectively, it looks at where development comes along, where we can seek improvements to the surrounding road network from that development. And it can be a variety of options, everything from requesting widening to accommodate either wider footways, so that may include setting building lines back, or it's to the other extreme of public realm improvements, so which could include street lighting improvements or other aspects like that. So it covers basically any highway improvement, public realm improvement.
Thanks, Ian. Is there anything anyone wanted to raise on that issue?
Just on some of the other
Sure.
points. Sorry, Simon Burkett. The taxis, could you just give us an indication of what you mean by the taxi and coach policies?
Over to you again, Ian.
The coaches policy is partly centred around Victoria Bus Station, and the options that the council have previously identified for that should it come up for redevelopment. It also talks about when looking at new coach facilities to look at the impacts of those on the surrounding area, including the highway network, but also other aspects such as emissions and the like. The taxis, again, is in a similar vein when looking at accommodating taxis and minicabs, along with aspects of residential amenity and the like.
Thanks, Ian.
Okay.
Was there anything you wanted to come back on in relation to that policy?
No, I think that's... well, two points. One is round Exhibition Road, which we haven't really talked about, but around Exhibition Road, coaches are an issue there. I appreciate it's a split boundary with RBKC, but I think the coaches... the siting there needs to be very carefully thought out and in practice shouldn't really be moved from where it is in RBKC currently. There are real problems along, I think it's Prince Consort Road, just below the Albert Hall, where you get double parked lines of buses on both sides, which are a massive problem. And not least when they're left running with their engines on for 3 hours while people are actually in the Albert Hall. And I think with taxis and private hire vehicles, I think there should again be some incentives in the most polluted areas to stop them picking up in the most polluted areas unless they have some of the cleaner engines. That's a policy which the Knightsbridge Association and Campaign for Clean Air in London have recommended.
Thank you.
On the question of coaches, I appreciate it's difficult because coaches tend to have to take the bits of the road that are left over after the pedestrians and the cyclists and the ordinary road users and the scheduled buses have all had their bite of the cherry. And so, especially when you have no accurate way of predicting how many coaches are going to be coming in on a particular day, it's difficult to make adequate provision, and if you make over provision, you're necessarily taking provision from somewhere else. One of the previous speakers spoke about problems on the South Kensington area. Another major area for coach problems is around Victoria and Parliament Square, and a third area linked to Parliament Square is Embankment, where traffic is very often significantly impaired by coaches. What often makes the position quite significantly worse is that the coaches are other-hand drive foreign vehicles with passenger doors that unload into the carriageway. And if it were possible to find some places where coach parking could be put in on, as it were, the wrong side of the road for foreign vehicles, so that the people coming out of the coaches could unload onto the pavement on the right-hand side of the vehicle, rather than unloading on the right-hand side of the vehicle parked on the left into the traffic, that would probably help everyone.
Thanks for that.
Under that coaches, where do tour buses that, like some stops, and to which policy do they come under, or do we have any control over their stops? And
You mean the sightseeing buses?
yeah,
Not within the UDP. That's not covered because it's not a planning issue. Because it's a Highways Act and Traffic Management Act issue.
they're not covered under any of these policies.
No,
And it can't be, you're saying?
not at the moment. No.
Thanks for that.
Sorry. So far, just in response to that, so far as I understand, the tourist buses are governed by TfL buses and come under similar control as those buses.
That's correct.
Gentleman at the front.
Can I ask about 16C, if articulate exactly what it will do in traffic reduction? Is there anything else we can do to be even better?
Policy TRANS15 currently in the UDP.
The TRANS15 on traffic reduction is a fairly general policy, just emphasising that as part of planning applications and new developments, we'll look to seek to reduce the impacts of traffic in terms of environmental and amenity effects.
But can we be? Is there any ideas about how to be more proactive, perhaps, on that?
Is there any
the environment?
Have you got any suggestions yourself?
I'll pass it back to my friend from the Nitrogen Association, I think. Anything particular in terms of 16C?
I'd just link it back to the line of sight I mentioned earlier, to the CO2 and air quality policies, and the need to rebalance things in the direction of residents as opposed to people who access all these areas. The people who live there all the time experience these problems 24 hours a day often, whereas people who are visiting might have a 1 or 2 minute disruption, and some balance needs to be put in for the number of hours people experience or suffer the problems. Yeah.
Okay, gentleman in front.
Yeah, I think the traffic reduction policy should link in with the policies we've discussed earlier in terms of parking provision, and that should be linked in with not expecting parking provision, or at least encouraging a reduction